She mocked. "Ah, look at you playing detective over a few sketchy messages." When I found her using a second Snapchat account, I said, "I'm not playing, but you are." She didn't laugh when I handed her a flash drive and said, "Your game's over. Enjoy explaining this to HR tomorrow." I operate on a simple principle. Trust is not a feeling. It's a verification of consistent behavior. For the first 2 years of our relationship, my girlfriend Vanessa's behavior was consistent. We built a good life. We lived in my house. We shared goals. We respected each other. Then, about 6 months ago, the data became corrupted. It started with small anomalies. Her phone, once left casually on the counter, was now perpetually attached to her hand or placed screen down. She started staying late at work, citing a high-stakes project managed by a senior VP named Marcus Thorne. Her language changed. She was peppered with corporate jargon and inside jokes that I wasn't privy to. These were minor deviations, but my internal threat assessment system flagged them. I don't believe in paranoia. I believe in pattern recognition. The lead that broke the case wide open was a moment of sheer carelessness on her part. We were watching a movie on the living room TV, using the smart hub connected to my iPad. A notification banner slid down from the top of the screen. It wasn't a text or an email. It was a Snapchat notification. But the username wasn't her standard, public one. It was something cryptic. Viper Nights 22. The message preview was short, but potent. "Can't wait for our budget meeting tomorrow." I didn't react. Showing my hand would have been a tactical error. I simply filed the username away in my mind. The operation had now moved from passive observation to active reconnaissance. Later that night, I did a preliminary search. The Viper Nights 22 account was, as expected, locked down tight. Private. But she had made another amateur mistake. The profile picture, though small, was clearly her, but in a pose far more provocative than anything on her public-facing accounts. This wasn't a friends-only account. This was a burner, a covert communications channel. The critical breach came 2 days later. She had been using the same iPad to watch something and had left it on the couch. When I picked it up, there it was. She was still logged into Snapchat, not her public account. She was logged in as Viper Nights 22. It was a staggering lapse in operational security. I didn't feel anger or sadness. I felt the cold, clear focus of a strategist who has just been handed the enemy's complete battle plan. I spent the next hour scrolling. It was a fire hose of incriminating evidence. The recipient of all the winky face budget meeting messages was, predictably, Marcus Thorne. His username was equally creative, MT_Bossman. The messages were damning. It wasn't just flirting. They were sharing explicit photos. They were planning trysts, often during work hours, sometimes in hotel rooms booked on the company credit card under the guise of client meetings. They were openly mocking their colleagues in the chat logs. Vanessa called her closest work friend a witless shrew. Marcus referred to his own wife as the warden. But the worst of it, the part that elevated this from a simple, sordid affair to a matter of corporate espionage, was that they were sharing sensitive information. He was feeding her details about upcoming restructuring plans, telling her which employees were going to be laid off so she could position herself to absorb their responsibilities. It was a clear abuse of his power and a massive breach of company protocol. I knew then that a simple breakup was insufficient. That would be like letting a hostile agent just walk away after they've compromised your entire network. A more comprehensive solution was required. I took out my phone and began screen recording the iPad. I captured everything. Every message, every photo, every video. It was all saved, backed up, and secured. I decided to conduct one final test. I needed to confirm her psychological profile. I needed to see if there was any chance of remorse, any glimmer of the person I thought she was. The next evening, I confronted her. I didn't show her the damning evidence. I just threw her a softball. "Hey," I said calmly. "I saw a weird notification on the iPad the other day. Something about a Viper Nights 22 Snapchat. Do you have a second account?" The reaction was immediate and exactly as I predicted. She didn't look guilty. She looked offended. She burst out laughing, a sound laced with pure condescension. "Ah, look at you playing detective over a few sketchy messages," she mocked, her voice dripping with derision. "Are you going through my things now? That's so cute and a little pathetic." I stared at her, my face unreadable. Her arrogance was breathtaking. She felt untouchable. Test complete. The data was conclusive. I'm not playing, Vanessa, I said, my voice quiet and cold. But you are. I turned and walked away. She called after me, still laughing, but I didn't look back. The reconnaissance phase was over. It was time to plan the assault. Update 1. The week that followed was an exercise in methodical preparation. Vanessa, believing she had successfully shamed me into silence, became even more brazen. Her late-night budget meetings increased in frequency. She was sloppy, arrogant, and completely unaware that she was walking deeper into a kill zone of her own making. My first step was to consult my lawyer. Not for a breakup, but for a strategic review. I laid out the evidence I had collected, the chat logs, the photos, the proof of them misusing company funds, and sharing confidential information. I explained that I wanted to end the relationship, but I also wanted to ensure that Vanessa and Marcus faced the full professional consequences of their actions. My lawyer was impressed by the thoroughness of the evidence. This is more than just an affair, he said. This is a serious breach of corporate ethics and potentially a data security risk. You have significant leverage, but we have to use it correctly. If you just release this out of anger, they could try to sue you for invasion of privacy. We need to frame this properly. His advice was brilliant. I was not to present myself as the scorned boyfriend. I was to be an anonymous, concerned third party. The objective was not to scream infidelity, but to report gross misconduct and corporate malfeasance. With that legal framework in place, I began compiling the assets for the operation. I purchased a new encrypted flash drive. On it, I created a meticulously organized set of folders. Folder 1, Inappropriate Relationship. This contained a PDF document that laid out a clear timeline of their affair, cross-referencing her working late excuses with time-stamped Snapchat messages and hotel receipts I found by checking her car's glove compartment for discarded paperwork. It also contained a subfolder with the most explicit photos and videos. Folder 2, Misuse of Company Assets. This folder had copies of the hotel folios booked on the corporate card, with the dates highlighted. It included chat logs where they discussed using company funds for personal dinners and gifts. Folder 3, Breach of Confidentiality. This was the most critical folder. It contained screenshots of Marcus sharing sensitive information about layoffs, client contracts, and internal strategy. I highlighted every single message that constituted a breach of his fiduciary duty to the company. Folder 4, Code of Conduct Violations. In this folder, I included a downloaded copy of their company's official Code of Conduct, which I had found online. I highlighted the specific sections they had violated: policies on fraternization between managers and subordinates, misuse of corporate funds, and the handling of confidential information. The entire flash drive was a self-contained, undeniable indictment of their behavior. It was cold, factual, and devastating. While I was building this digital weapon, I was also living with the enemy. It was a strange, out-of-body experience. I was polite, distant, and completely non-confrontational. Vanessa mistook my silence for submission. She would swan around the house, talking on the phone with Marcus right in front of me, using coded language she thought was clever. Yes, the Q4 projections are looking very, very promising, she'd say, winking at her phone. The arrogance was astounding. She believed she was an evil genius. In reality, she was just a reckless amateur, and she was making my job easier every single day. The final piece of the puzzle was the delivery system. My lawyer advised against a digital-only approach, which could be dismissed or deleted. We needed to create a physical impact. So I prepared 2 identical packages. Each contained a flash drive and a printed 1-page executive summary that outlined the contents and highlighted the most severe violations. The summary was written in dry, corporate language, signed simply a concerned employee. I had 2 targets for these packages: the head of human resources at their company and Marcus Thorne's wife. I had found her name and address through a simple public records search. She deserved to know the truth, unvarnished and undeniable. My operation was no longer about a single relationship. It was about dismantling an entire corrupt ecosystem. The packages were sealed, stamped, and ready. All that was left was to choose the moment of execution. Update 2. The moment I chose was a Thursday evening. Vanessa came home from work glowing with a smug, self-satisfied energy. She had been promoted. Marcus had, of course, signed off on it. She was telling me all about her new title, her new responsibilities, expecting me to be the dutiful, supportive boyfriend. She was celebrating what she thought was the victory of a lifetime. She had no idea it was her last supper. I let her finish her monologue. I let her bask in the glory of a success she had achieved through deceit. Then I stood up and walked over to my desk. I picked up a third flash drive, a decoy I had prepared for this very moment. I walked back over to her, my face completely calm. I held out the flash drive. She looked at it, confused. "What's this?" she asked. "This is the end of the game," I said, my voice low and even. "I suggest you take a look at what's on here. It's a comprehensive summary of your activities for the past 6 months. Her face went through a rapid series of expressions, confusion, then irritation, then a dawning flicker of fear. "What are you talking about?" "My activities." "Your budget meetings," I said. "Your misuse of company funds. Your relationship with Marcus Thorne. Your second Snapchat account." All the color drained from her face. She looked at me, her eyes wide with panic. You know? I know everything," I said. "I'm not playing detective, Vanessa. I'm the guy who found the open playbook, read every page, and decided to end the game." I dropped the flash drive on the coffee table in front of her. "Your game's over," I said, delivering the line I'd been rehearsing in my head for weeks. "Enjoy explaining this to HR tomorrow." She lunged for the flash drive, her hands trembling. "You can't do this." "You wouldn't?" "Wouldn't I?" I said. "That flash drive is a copy. The originals were sent via courier this afternoon. One to your head of HR, marked urgent and confidential. The other to Catherine Thorne, Marcus's wife. I imagine they're all having a very interesting evening." The sound she made was something between a gasp and a sob. The reality of what I had done finally crashed down on her. This wasn't a relationship argument. This was a tactical strike that targeted every aspect of the life she had built on lies. Her career, her affair, her reputation, all of it was about to be incinerated. "I have packed your essential belongings into your suitcases," I continued, my voice cold and devoid of pity. "They are by the front door. A car will be here in 15 minutes to take you to a hotel for the night. You have until noon on Saturday, 48 hours, to arrange for the professional removal of all of your remaining property from my house. If it is not gone by then, it will be legally considered abandoned and disposed of at your expense. We are done here." She stared at me, her face a mask of utter devastation and disbelief. The smug, condescending woman who had called me pathetic was gone. In her place was a terrified, broken person who had been so busy playing a game that she never realized she was losing. I felt nothing, no pity, no remorse, just the quiet, clean satisfaction of a mission accomplished. I turned and walked into my bedroom, closing and locking the door behind me, leaving her alone with the full, that crushing weight of her consequences. Final update: it has been 4 months since Operation Meltdown. My life has been scrubbed clean of Vanessa's toxic presence. The nuclear option I chose was devastatingly effective, and the fallout was more complete than I could have ever planned. The day after I gave her the flash drive, the bomb went off at her company. The head of HR, upon receiving the package, immediately escalated the issue to the company's legal counsel. The evidence was so overwhelming and so meticulously organized that there was no room for denial. Marcus Thorne was called into a meeting that morning and fired on the spot for gross misconduct, breach of confidentiality, and misuse of company assets. He was escorted out of the building before lunchtime. Vanessa arrived at work to find her access card deactivated. She was met at the door by HR and a security guard and was informed that she was being placed on indefinite administrative leave pending an investigation. The investigation took less than a week. She was also fired for cause, for her role in the affair and her complicity in the code of conduct violations. The second package, delivered to Catherine Thorne, had an equally explosive effect. Armed with undeniable proof of her husband's long-term affair and his use of family and company money to fund it, she filed for divorce immediately. I'm told the proceedings were brutal. Marcus lost his job, his reputation, his marriage, and a massive portion of his net worth. He was completely and totally ruined. Vanessa's fate was just as grim. She was not only unemployed, but also essentially unemployable in her industry. The story of the scandal, while not public news, spread like wildfire through corporate circles. She was radioactive. The affair with Marcus was over, of course. He blamed her for the entire thing, for being careless and getting them caught. She had to move back in with her parents, a disgraced, jobless woman with no prospects. Her attempts to launch a smear campaign against me were pathetic and went nowhere. I had told a few key friends, the sanitized professional version, that I had discovered she was in an inappropriate relationship that compromised her company, and I ended things. No one believed her version of me as a vindictive psycho. The evidence of her own character was too strong. I didn't just break up with a cheating girlfriend. I dismantled a corrupt system she was exploiting. I took her arrogance and her recklessness, and I used it as a weapon against her. She mocked me for playing detective, but in the end, her entire life was undone by a simple, well-organized presentation of the facts. She thought she was a master player in a complex game, but she was just a reckless amateur who left her playbook open for her opponent to read. My life now is calm. It's orderly. It's logical. I sold the house to wash away the bad memories and bought a new place that is entirely my own. The revenge wasn't about emotion. It was about strategy. It was about identifying a threat and neutralizing it in the most efficient and permanent way possible. She sneered at me and called me pathetic. The world she built is now a crater, and I am at peace. The mission was a complete success.